The PlayStation 2 is still to this day one of the coolest video game consoles to ever exist. It's responsible for some of the greatest classics in the entire medium, like Metal Gear Solid 3, Final Fantasy X, God of War, Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, Kingdom Hearts. Games that will continue to be ported forever, easily accessible, and with franchises that'll probably stick around. Sony's PlayStation 2 is the highest selling console of all time, probably mostly due to the whole cheap DVD player thing, but still, anyone who plays games knows it. Although you probably haven't played all apparently 4,300 plus video games released for the dang thing. Sure, you know Solid Snake, but have you played Konami's Psy Girls? Yeah, probably not. And you probably shouldn't either unless you like jank, then by all means. With such a massive library sporting new releases coming out from 2000 all the way to 2013, there's bound to be an incredible amount of PlayStation 2 games that have gone by the wayside. No matter the quality, no matter the sales, there's so many cool PlayStation 2 games out there that I think deserve another little shout out, so here we are. I've been digging and echolocating a handful of ridiculous games to talk about, some great, some borderline terrible, but all of them worth a mention in the year 2025 because, well, when you're surrounded in the modern eShop slop releases, yesterday's 4 out of 10 doesn't seem so bad. So yo, it's Austin, and today we're gonna be talking about some cool PlayStation 2 games, potentially Volume 1. I mean, look, we've got over 4,000 video games in this category alone, so if y'all wanna just hear me kick back and ramble on about 20-plus-year-old video games, let me know down in the comments, or maybe drop some suggestions, you know? Hopefully I've already gotten to them, but surely I've missed something that was a central part of somebody's childhood, so I'm always looking out for more stuff. So we've got a lot to get into today, but before we get started, strap in. Today's video has been sponsored by War Thunder. Welcome to War Thunder, one of the most fully comprehensive vehicle combat games free on PC, console, and mobile devices. Assume control of one of 2,500 different tanks, helicopters, planes, and ships spanning 10 nations. We've got biplanes and armored cars from the 20s to the fighter jets and tanks of the modern era. War Thunder embraces its realism with sophisticated damage models on all the vehicles, all intricately modeled down to the individual components. If it can take a hit, it'll behave like so, but it's not all realistic. There's game modes for all sorts of players. Arcade for those who want to just get in and blast, the self-explanatory simulation, and realistic mode for a fun middle ground. War Thunder gives you a ton of customization for all your vehicles to easily immerse yourself in the intense combat. You want big explosions? You got it. You can also play this anywhere now with the brand new mobile version, and if you sign up using one of my links in the pinned comment or the description, you'll get a massive bonus pack. For new and returning players on PC and consoles, there's the exclusive Vehicle Decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account access. This is available for a limited time. So join the international community of over 95 million players online for some fun epic PvP battles today. Play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile now using my links in the description and pinned comment. Thanks to War Thunder for the sponsor, but for now we need to get this ball rolling with some cool obscurities. I feel like with a video like this, I don't need to say that God of War is cool or worth playing, like everybody knows that. However, I think that it would be fun to highlight some of the obscurities over the last 20 years. For example, the follow-up to PlayStation 1's Vib-Ribbon. Vib-Ripple, the Japanese-only sequel to Vib-Ribbon, the Japanese and European exclusive. North American audiences collectively go, whoa. What? Vib-Ribbon was this rhythm game made by Nana Onsha, the people behind Parappa the Rapper, that was a borderline tech demo. This here's Vibri, and he runs through courses created by music. It's like a proto-audio surf you could even import music to run through stages with. Billy Talents? Sure. Well, 2004's Vib-Ripple is another tech demo-y type of deal. Instead of racing along courses, Vibri loads onto a giant trampoline where you jump onto random images looking for hidden objects based off the color of the picture. And you gotta avoid the dreaded Bunchi. Yeah, it's not very difficult. I don't know if I can say Vib-Ripple's very good, but similarly to the original, you can load in your own content, meaning if you've ever wanted to bounce onto an image of Suikoden 2's cover, you can. Not really sure why, but if there's one company who was supporting bizarre video game ideas in the 2000s, it was Sony. Thankfully, if you did want more of the rhythm style game, they also put out Mojib Ribbon in 2003. I have no idea what's going on, but his face is literally .txt, and I love it. Speaking of Sony, we've mentioned it before, but Bombastic is still pretty obscure. This here's a big-brained puzzle game, the sequel to Devil Dice for the PlayStation 1, and something people tend to remember alongside Mr. Domino and Intelligent Cube. This is one of those games that succeeds on pure vibes, just of the punishing variety. You run forward on dice, make things blow up, and each dice has certain effects based on what it's touching. There's a lot, and Bombastic gives us a full quest mode. It takes some getting used to, for sure. I don't even think the narrator in the tutorial knows what's going on.
If you move this die in line with the red arrow, all right, there it goes. The top face stays as 2, even if the die's position changes. Huh, I didn't know that.
Shouldn't you know that? Bombastic is really cool. Some of y'all already know that. And it's great for some 5-player multiplayer action, even if it's a cluster. PlayStation 2 had no shortage of bizarre puzzle games. We've got a whole bunch more, like Tokobot plus Mysteries of the Karakuri.
Tokobots? What a stupid name.
It's not that bad. Tokobot Plus is an extremely cute, if simple puzzle platformer released by Temco in 2005. Originally a PlayStation Portable exclusive, simply Tokobot, they brought this to the PlayStation 2 a year later, slapped on the Plus, tossed in a bit more content, and what we've got is a game that actually has mixed reviews. It landed at 66 on Metacritic at the time, which I'm not sure I agree with. You assume control of Bolt, a kid with a really cool hat that controls little Karakuri dolls made into robots. They link together to become ladders and bridges. You can slap them on the ground with a group ground pound or just smash the spin button for easy damage. The bosses have interesting mechanics, and they actually feel somewhat Zelda-like in design, but for some reason, normal encounters are really spongy. You can feel the PSP genes deep here, even in the console port. The camera's kind of rough. There's not a whole lot of variety considering you're messing with the same 3 basic formations the entire game, but it has a decent amount of challenge with those limitations, even if it takes a little bit to get going. You also get combat chips, which are automated in the port that'll give you access to mini games like a crane game. This version has more platforming challenges, although a lot of that is upgrade gated. Heck, the story's the same way. The dude who jumps you at the start pulls a Vegeta and won't continue the battle until you get all 8 bits and become stronger. It worked out great for him. Tokobot's a great puzzler for any Zelda-obsessed kids who were starving on the PlayStation 2, who also thought Dual Hearts wasn't enough. It was something a little different from the constant deluge of extreme sports and racers that flood the bargain bins. Speaking of...
Okay, now you have no excuse.
Rumble Racing. This is what happens when you take NASCAR Rumble, which was pretty good by the way, decide to forego the licensing costs and do it again. Hot Wheels and Mario Kart power-ups, sounds very 2001. Made by EA Redwood Shores, the folks who would become Visceral and later go on to make Dead Space, this one's a smash and crash style of racer with wacky over-the-top physics and tricks that you can pull off for boosting. This game gets wild quickly with a sheer amount of nonsense happening. If you hit a bump in the road, you will be flying, or sitting on a tornado. Casual, friendly race tornado. Classic.
You did it! And to think you only cheated.
Do you like SSX? The answer should be yes, by the way, but you want more horsepower? Check out Sledstorm. Hate snow? We got Jet X2O instead. Jet X2O is quite unabashedly SSX with jet skis. Skidoo. That includes the crazy over-the-top tracks with fake advertising plastered everywhere, all the way down to the almost stereotypical but not totally character selection. We've got the insane French dude, the hot Swedish girl, and the most dude bro who should not be operating heavy machinery. I mean, yeah, that's how you race, man. We do have a trick system, although it's a lot more limited than some of the competitors. Not that there's a whole lot you can do on a jet ski. Luckily, the track designs are actually a lot of fun to race through, some of which take a lot of inspiration from Hydro Thunder, which is probably still the best one of these. Actually, if I squint hard enough, it's like I'm looking at Arctic Thunder. Yo, anyone play on one of those cabinets with the fan that blows at you? What happened to these? Look, there's not a whole lot that I can say about Jet X2O that you can't get from looking at the screen, but if the screen is appealing to you in the slightest, you know you'll have a good time. Bonus points for the announcer doing what I can only describe as Soul Calibur shock jockey.
What you're about to experience is a Cajun confection of cypress swamps and voodoo vixens. Yeah, buddy, this here's Delta Factor.
So take all of this, top it off with a sandbox mode, aka sheer insanity, and you've got yourself a game that I blew tens of hours on. Just being a kid hitting these same ramps over and over again. Wave Race might be a little better, but this'll do in a pinch.
Hope you got your mosquito repellent. Oh, look, there's Grandma waving at you in the stands.
I think all of humanity agrees that one of the PlayStation 2's best video games was Burnout 3 Takedown. It's Criterion Games' masterpiece. I still play it every now and then myself, but it wasn't their PlayStation 2 debut. Heck, neither was Burnout 1. It's actually a little game called Airblade.
Oh, you shouldn't have.
What the? Yes.
Airblade, a very unimpressive cover that was published by Sony in Europe and Namco in the States. Despite what it looks like, it's not a straight up Tony Hawk clone. There's a focus on platforming. You're swinging around from poles to get massive hops while doing level-based objectives, such as taking out snipers. Airblade's a slippery little game. It makes sense when the whole thing has you quite literally slipping away from the evil corporation after your friend steals the titular Airblade so they can't crime the environment, and now you gotta break them out. It's also a hoverboard, that's probably why. The Airblade controls very loosely. It's so easy to get turned around, leading to mass jank, which is also a lot of the charm. Controlling the Airblade is meant to be a chaotic experience, and it's apparently also a weapon, considering grinding a truck will make it explode. I see Airblade went the King of Fighters 12 approach and has the character taking up a vast majority of the screen real estate. I'm not sure how well that works in an extreme sports game. Might be perfect for BMX XXX though.
Boobies.
The camera also takes its sweet time to reorientate after landing, sometimes doing a full 360 for no reason. Honestly, impressed that I didn't get nauseous playing this one. The music, on the other hand, a staple of the genre, it's okay. It's like Jet Set Radio was inspired by Buck Bumble.
Superfly in the sky. Everybody flip, fly. Superfly in the sky.
The Rickety Buck Bumble.
However, that music is dynamic. The more objectives you complete, the more layers of instruments come in, ending with the lyrics popping in for the final escape. But just don't fall off any of the buildings in the final level, or you'll have to restart from the beginning. That's pretty good. Although Razor Scooter Kid is better. Airblade is pretty obscure and fine. Extreme sports titles were a dime a dozen in the early 2000s, so having something more focused on platforming or level progression makes it stand out. I just wish there was more. The game clocks in at, and I'm not kidding, a solid 30 minutes to an hour depending on how long it takes you to figure out each level. It's the kind of Hollywood video rental that'll have you back the next day. Short, sweet, slightly janky, and with a lot of that classic early aughts voice acting starring Lanny Minella.
Dude, tell me you were watching. I was pulling some bitchin' moves
Come on,
back there.
hot dog. Let's get away from that chopper and find out what's going on.
Alrighty, next up, I want to take a dip in the licensed pond. Now, normally the concept of cool with licensed games doesn't work. I mean, really, most of those games end up just being complete shite. However, I think there's absolutely room for a couple of these releases. For example, if you're telling me there's a Looney Tunes racing game with a holographic coil sporting bugs wearing shades on the front, well, 12-year-old me is gonna think that's the coolest thing he's ever seen. Although that's technically a Dreamcast game. Looney Tunes, racing in space, a solid idea, even if it was made by Infogrames. Infogrames has never been a sign of quality, but it's pretty tough to mess up a kart racer. Thankfully, what we got here is a slighter better version of an already good game with a new tournament mode, your standard Grand Prix. Take control of Bugs, Daffy, Sylvester, Elmer Fudd, or even Marvin the Martian as you zoom through 14 different tracks, each with some pretty banging tunes. Space Race is a little basic by today's standards and also lacks some of the fun drifting you'd see in like Crash Team Racing or Mario Kart 64. You've got a small array of item pickups, and the main boosting mechanic has you grabbing 5 cans of fuel to stock up on for a singular boost. The levels have a lot going on, and while it's nowhere near as good as the previously mentioned, it definitely looked great and was better than a vast majority of licensed kart racers of the time, like Super Bombad Racing. Yeah, nah. Space Race is a simple game with a world-recognized brand. So how's about a racer with a crazy learning curve featuring a brand that no one remembers? It's time for IGPX Immortal Grand Prix.
This is the future of sport. This is the IGPX.
Yeah, tell him, Optimus. What happens when Cartoon Network wants to produce anime for Toonami during its heyday? You get IGPX, the Immortal Grand Prix, a combination Pizza Hut Taco Bell of sports and mecha anime. A show that was presented like a big freaking deal, but quickly got lost to the sands of time. Heck, it took a full 20 years for a proper Blu-ray release. The production values were high, the 3D models of the mechs looked great. The entire concept was like Toonami saw Zoid's New Century doing well and said, let's do that, but with racing. And what we got was a micro-series that popped off, and eventually a full show that come and go by so fast you'd think it almost didn't happen. Even more obscure would be the official PS2 video game, IGPX Immortal Grand Prix the video game. A redundant title that just reminds me of LOL Lack of Love, but that game doesn't have you racing / fighting on 60-mile-long tracks, stumbling and bumbling your way through races and buying upgrades over time to get even stronger. IGPX the game popped out in 2006 is clearly a budget title for the era. It didn't review very well and it seems to have been quickly forgotten about. However, there is a grind and learning curve required to get into the systems that might be brutal for some. It's an acquired taste for sure, especially as it doesn't do much to reward your efforts, like cutscenes. No, it's all gameplay. IGPX the game is a wild concept that doesn't fully live up to its ideas, but if the systems click, it can be fun. I mean, look at the robots fighting on the road. This is the coolest thing ever.
The defender was off balance for that devastating attack!
There's a decent amount of really cool and awesome ideas that don't translate well into video games. For instance, Cowboy Bebop Suioku no Serenade. Look, it's Cowboy Bebop. It's one of the coolest anime of all time. The PlayStation 1 game they released was a pretty cool Star Fox 64 clone, and this one was touted to be a fully playable episode. For years I wanted to try this one out, but couldn't because it was Japanese only, and wouldn't you know, a full English translation came out just a few months ago. So thanks to Sonic Man 69, I can finally get my hands on this. And it's okay. Translating to Serenade of Reminiscence, this does a decent job at recreating the vibe of Bebop. The music is all there, even a few new tracks done by Yoko Kanno. The characters look right, there's lots of cutscenes that showcase a classic search for space pirate treasure, but dang, if this isn't the most janky game in the video. Everything is so stiff, every combo has you just standing in place after pulling it off. There's some variety with vehicle missions in the shooting sections, and boy howdy, I'm controlling this the best that I can. It's very weird, and despite the coolness of Cowboy Bebop, it really fails to pull it off. Look, I'm trying my best. Now there's one more licensed game, and here's a big one. The only title donning the greatest hits label in this section. You may not think much of THQ's Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights, but you should.
Where are you? We need some help from you now.
Developed by Heavy Iron Studios, the people who brought us Evil Dead Hail to the King, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, and unfortunately, Family Guy Back to the Multiverse, 2002's Night of 100 Frights is the definition of a cool licensed game. I mean, it starts with a fully in-engine rendition of the classic Scooby-Doo theme song before quickly throwing you into what feels like a full feature-length rendition of the TV show. They're even able to explain the collectible currency in a way that fits right in.
Well, what do you know? Scooby snacks!
Obviously, this one's a 3D platformer, but also Metroidvania. You collect Scooby snacks and other upgrades throughout the Mystic Manor to unlock new routes and power-ups for abilities to reach new heights. You can partner up with Shaggy for specific segments, and there's even a map in case you get lost, which you might, but at least you can teleport between certain areas. You keep Scoobs from getting too scared while dodging and fighting the Mystery Inc.'s Rogue Gallery, all while being bombarded by laugh tracks and cartoon noises. Get used to this. It certainly sounds like Scooby-Doo, just with a whole lot of chomping. Scooby-Doo Night of 100 Frights was originally a PlayStation exclusive that I rented for like an entire week, and I sure loved it. It's not terribly long, you can beat the thing 100% in like 10 hours. It's not overly challenging, and it's definitely targeted for kids, but when it comes to dog-based platformers, I can't think of anything better. I guess maybe Okami, does that count?
Rip, roast me.
A lot of cool and cult classic video games aren't necessarily good. I mean, just take a look at something like Deadly Premonition with all of its shortcomings as a video game. Regardless, it's still a good vibe. Sometimes they're bad, other times super janky, and other times straight up Kusoge, but it doesn't really matter, I still get a kick out of 7 Samurai 20XX.
You just signed your death warrant.
Nato, don't finish him off! I want to do it with my own hand!
Never heard of it? That's fine. 7 Samurai 20XX is one of those weird PlayStation 2 releases by Sammy prior to eating Sega. The entire concept is literally in the name, an adaptation of the legendary Akira Kurosawa film 7 Samurai, but in the year 20XX. Yeah. Except instead of being able to control all 7 of the samurai, you just get to control Natoe, the main character trademark with his spiky hair, 2 swords, and goggles. Definitely the coolest guy I'd ever seen when this popped out in 2004, especially when the entire gameplay is this massive hack and slash romp with what feels like endless enemies. Trigger your special technique, the Naito Ryu mode, use both swords and spin around like you're Gacked and Bujin Guy the Forsaken City. Yeah, there were a lot of these, both reveling in middle-of-the-road reviews. Bujin Guy's pretty cool and oozes with style, but unfortunately, this futuristic retelling of 7 Samurai with its grim, dark Phantasy Star Online-looking ass aesthetic doesn't quite make the mark. The problem is, there's like 0 depth. The gameplay's separated into cutscene, walking section, battle arena against 30 or 40 of the same looking dude, lots of slowdown on PS2 hardware, it really chugs, rinse repeat for 5 to 6 hours. There's no upgrades, no meaningful additions to gameplay. What you see is what you get, packaged with brown and gray cityscapes the entire time. It's kind of bland. But even with all these complaints and issues, there's something fun about kicking back and playing 7 Samurai 20XX for a couple hours. There's really nothing like it. It loves the idea of the 7 Samurai, even if it strays really far from the initial concept. But if you're ever in the mood for a mindless hack and slash, you could do a lot worse, especially when you play with emulation. Look, magic frames.
I'll see you next time, and that will be the last time.
Bujin Guy better though. What about a game that totally sucks but had a lot of brand new cutscenes for a TV show you liked? Aqua Teen Hunger Force Zombie Ninja Pro-Am is just that.
You get a firm grip and let it rip. Right into his window.
In what feels like a 2000s stoner fever dream, classic Adult Swim cartoon Aqua Teen Hunger Force got a video game, but specifically a golf game? This whole thing is bizarre. You're brought to a cool, exclusive golf course, the squad goes, and for some reason the golf doesn't actually matter at all. Anytime you hit a ball, you then have to manually run towards it while fighting away various things and looking around in the level. I mean, some of the dialogue's funny, the character models are pretty accurate actually, but everything else is a wild mess. It's like someone took a Cartoon Network Flash game, smoked everything burnable in a frat house, and made a title with terrible feeling everything. The golfing feels bad, the combat feels even worse, and the entire concept, it's just weird. But you know what? There is literally nothing else like this. Not a single video game has tried to recreate this stupid ass concept, and I think that's pretty cool. Thankfully these days, if you want to watch the special cutscenes, they slapped it on the Volume 6 DVD, or, you know, YouTube.
I'm not getting a pulse.
Try his neck.
This is where his heart is, right? On the foot.
The heart's in the neck.
Ever heard of Dark Angel? Sorry, no, not the TV show. I'm talking Dark Angel Vampire Apocalypse by Metropolis Digital. Really, I just wanted to show the cover. I think this is pretty cool. You got who I guess is the Dark Angel on the cover swinging a big old sword into demons off camera. Then you play the thing, are immediately greeted with 0 explanation on how this thing works, and are sent into what I can only describe as Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, except all you do is grind. This thing is pretty bad. Maybe fun as like a friend torture device, especially with the random stinger jump scares. The definition of Kusoge, or bad but cool, is pretty broad and also subjective, so we won't linger here much longer. But really, I've just been waiting for an excuse to bring up Hidden Invasion, so I'm gonna do it. Hidden Invasion is, and I'm not gonna say this lightly, the greatest 3D beat 'em up of all time. It sucks, and I love it. Just look at this cover. It tells you everything you need to know in a single second. Extreme explosions, exposed midriffs that aren't actually in the main game. Oh, and especially the part where the main dude's face looks totally different different than the European release, which is essentially a 3 Wolf Moon t-shirt with him 3 times and also as the moon as well. Let's go. Developed by Toka, a French studio who you might know from Soul Fighter or the Flintstones and Viva Rock Vegas for the PlayStation 2, Hidden Invasion is not a terribly long video game. You play as either, their names actually aren't on the screen, but apparently Dean Travis and Karen Bride. Dude, this is just going for it. Yo, you like stock sound effects? Get used to hearing that constantly, but it ain't just punching and kicking. We also got guns. Guns that slide you around when you fire them, and assault rifles you one-hand, you know it. Actually, for some reason, anytime you get into battle with someone, you suddenly become area locked next to them, so you aren't able to run past, which also means if they move, you move with them, and you'll be spending a whole lot of time fighting the exact same 2 enemies over and over. The controls are wacky. Take a minute to figure out, and I don't know why, but the objectives are poorly labeled on the screen. And to top it off, it's pretty easy to get absolutely destroyed, as some enemies will lay into you, meaning you better watch your lives. And at least you just respawn in that exact moment in time if you die. If you run out, you'll have a sad Dean Travis. Yo, you better press start. It's just gonna get worse. He's so sad. What have you done? What's the story here? I don't know, actually. Something about the Shadow Force team needing to kill the leader of a terrorist organization, one who isn't named or given any lore to the player, by the way. It's just like, oh, guess what? It's actually aliens. The presentation is so goofy. It makes the Donkey Kong Country cartoon seem realistic.
I had no idea where the president could have escaped to, but I wasn't going to waste any time in finding out.
Why are there so many cuts? Look at this guy, he's so guilty. Coming in at a petite 1 to 2 hours, depending on how good you are at figuring out the wacky control scheme. Hidden Invasion is exactly the type of video game that's a blast to boot up with 0 context in front of a few friends. You know, for laughs. Would I recommend Hidden Invasion to play for fun? Absolutely not. But there's something undeniably cool about its early Y2K aesthetic and freaky early mocapped cutscenes that's a blast to watch.
The president told me that there was an abandoned town near the coast, but first, I was seriously considering changing my clothes. And I finally got my well-deserved holidays, paid for by the world government.
I feel like the 2000s were not shy about giving a player a crazy, unique concept and just rolling with it. Since big releases weren't normally sporting $10 to $100 million budgets, there was way more room for smaller publishers and developers to experiment and still get their games on the big console. Titles that would just do a few things cool, like wham bam, thank you Sega. Them specifically because Gungrave is awesome. Is this not the coolest thing ever? Sporting an all-star team of art designed by Yasuhiro Naidao and Kosuke Fujishima, that's Trigon and Oh My Goddess respectively, Gungrave is an absolute vibe. Created by Red Entertainment, we've got a cool guy donning a large coat and a cowboy hat shooting endless amounts of bullets at everyone. This dude's name is Grave, short for Beyond the Grave, which is normal, as he embarks on a revenge mission like no other. A lot of the plot is secondary, happening in flashbacks and slightly obfuscated by what's going on. But the main thing here is the gameplay. You run into rooms, you blast away everything in sight, and you try to survive. Do you like the sound of bullets or explosions? Because it will be clipping. The visual style was a little low rent at the time, but has aged phenomenally because of it. The environments are straight out of a comic book. This whole thing is like, what if Drake and the 99 Dragons was good and also anime? Dip and dive, Max Payne style as you shoot your infinite ammo into whatever pops up, do a big missile sometimes, and finish this thing before lunch because Gungrave is done in less than 2 hours. An incredibly short video game, but one that maintains its high style, banging OST, and simple action the entire time. You can and should play Gungrave. It's great. Yo, is that Baby Dante? The sequel, Gungrave Overdose, seems to be more of the same, but also has way more of a mixed reception. Despite launching in the States at a staggeringly low $15, some of the gameplay loses the polish, the visuals become slightly worse to combat the original's hardware slowdown, and, well, I need to get into it to truly understand. Gungrave ended up getting an anime, a few extra video games like Gungrave Gore, and now a remake called Gungrave Gore Blood Heat, and I've honestly not heard great things. But hey, the original's sitting with 6s everywhere, so maybe everyone's wrong. Regardless, the original Gungrave rules. Also published by Sega, the PlayStation 2 version of Shinobi. Now This game is hard. Sometimes a 3-hour-long brutal ninja romp is all the heart desires, and 2002's Shinobi delivers on that 100-fold. Originally gonna be a Dreamcast release, Sega and Overworks brought this over to the PlayStation 2 and gave us the definitive ninja action platformer prior to Ninja Gaiden hitting Xbox in 2004. This was a hack and slasher where you played as Hatsuma traveling through an absolute hellscape as he uses his sword, Akujiki, to suck out the souls of the living. You're literally murdering everything in sight. Demons, other ninjas, tanks. Heck, not even children are safe from their souls being stolen. Shinobi revels in the early 2000s aesthetic. The visuals are clean, if slightly pixely. There's a visual focus on Hatsuma's red scarf as it trails behind him. Impressively so, even when wall running and air dashing. This is the coolest guy ever. Despite being beatable in a few hours, it'll probably take you a good bit longer due to the insane difficulty spikes. Shinobi is notoriously difficult, and altogether, it's a game that's like the definitive post-Dreamcast Sega release. This also got a sequel the following year, Nightshade, featuring Hibana the Kunoichi. Simply put, this one's more of the same, but also not as good. The visuals are a bit more dry, the bandana isn't nearly as impressive looking as Hatsuma's scarf, and I feel like it lacks a bit of that sauce. It's still a fun game that's also really hard, but not quite hitting the same highs. She does look freaking dope though. And now for a few games rapid fire style that I don't really have much to say about. Flipnik Ultimate Pinball, developed and published by Sony in Japan, Capcom over here because of course. This cover tells you nothing. However, what awaits you inside is what I can only describe as what if the pinball minigames from Sonic Adventure weren't complete dog shit. And there you go. What can I say? It's pinball. It's not for everybody, but it sure is fun. Also, not really sure what this intro developer slide was.
Oh my god. It's so weird.
Harmonix's Amplitude and Frequency are a pair of incredible rhythm games on the PlayStation 2 where you play the charts of individual instruments to create a song. It might not have a plastic guitar, but they absolutely hold up today. The PlayStation 4 Kickstarter successor, Amplitude, is one of the best rhythm games of that entire generation, and I won't hear any slander. Graffiti Kingdom, the sequel to Magic Pinball, The Quest for Color, a very simple release that's famous for one reason, the ability to create your own creatures. They do a good job of showing you everything the fun systems will allow you to design, which I of course could not utilize properly. Meet this guy. Okay, let's try again. This here is Tedrick. He's well, that's supposed to be his pants, but instead it just looks like he's moving on his, do I need to mosaic this? Well, I tried my best. Graffiti Kingdom is a neat action platformer with very basic gameplay, but it does have a soundtrack by the super goat Yasunori Mitsuda, so it's a joy to play. Plus you can just play as the drawings of the enemies you defeat, so creativity is not gonna be an issue.
Huh? You mean you're not a demon? What? How rude!
Then, the pure opposite, we got Gungrave Blaze, a very early PlayStation 2 release that got brought over for the console's launch in America by One Working Designs. Totally outdated by 2025 standards with the crazy accessible Armored Core 6 and plethora of mecha out there, but also this was more like, what if Mech Warrior and Tribes had a baby? It combines the fast arcadey action with a more sim-based presentation and control scheme, and there's not really much else out there like it. Shoutouts to Working Designs for bringing over the weird ones. I'd love to see this redone with better controls because these games ain't working for me. Right stick to move and left to aim? I can't. We can't talk about the PlayStation 2 without the Japanese RPGs. Well, we could, but that'd be like a third of the best games in the console out the door. The PlayStation 2's got a ton of them, as this was the, in my opinion, last generation as part of the golden era of the genre. People know the Final Fantasies and Dragon Quests, the Personas, Rogue Galaxy, and maybe some of the stinkers like Legaia 2.
You ready? Yeah!
And all of that makes games like Shadow Hearts, Magna Carta, Soul Nomad, and Radiata Story stand out even less. It's a shame because they're pretty good. And if you bring in the strategy RPG, the oversaturation gets worse. Like, has anyone out there played Eternal Poison? However, there's two RPGs I want to highlight real quick. Atlas was releasing a lot of stuff on the PlayStation 2, but there's just something about Wizardry Tale of the Forsaken Land. The Wizardry series is way too big to explain for this video, but its first-person dungeon crawling has been such an influential part of video games going all the way back to the early 80s. Surtech's Wizardry ended up being such a popular game in Japan that they basically co-opted the entire franchise after it stopped, with nearly 40 different spin-offs coming out, far outliving the original franchise. This PS2 release, also known as Busen Wizardry Alternative, has the staples of the franchise with the incredible art of Katsuya Terada, and let's be real, this isn't for everyone. The ultra punishing first-person dungeon crawlers are something you really need to sit down with for 50 to 100 hours at a time, and modern gamers might have an even harder time getting into its more archaic systems. However, if that's not an issue, emulate this bad boy, create your party members, and hang out in the church for some bangin' club gospel core. On another note, has anyone here played Konami's PlayStation 2 release of Ys 6, The Ark of Nepishtim? I ask because this version is very different.
What is the matter, Isha? Oh, sister.
Oh my god.
It's me, Tara! Remember? We had our adventure in Xandria 3 years ago!
Oh, no.
You're heading to the giant vortex of Canaan? You can't be serious!
It doesn't stop! Let's go!
I wanted to see the world!
I really enjoy the Ys series, and Ark of Nepishtim is a great game, but this specific port on the PlayStation 2 is different for a number of reasons. For starters, it's got the full CG cutscenes, but also fully 3D models that would change the main character Adol's appearance too, which was really novel. This was actually the first Ys game to hit the States since 3 in the early 90s, back when all the combat was push into the enemy and hope, and this little taste did a lot for my interests in the 2000s. You can turn the voice acting to Japanese if you want, but this is like prime bad voice acting, and it's worth listening to. The game itself is great. It's a solid action RPG, although real tough. It's like, hey, did you go in the wrong direction? One shot. Yep, that's Ys. Thanks, Falcom. Also, I just finished Treasure in the Sky remake. It was really good. All right, we got one more game today, and I think I saved a banger for last. Despite getting all sorts of mixed reviews and being largely forgotten in the year 2025, I think Samurai Western is one of the coolest PlayStation 2 games. I mean, just look at the art. And if that's not enough, why not take a gander at the opening cutscene that uses silhouettes of real people to depict a samurai fighting against a bunch of cowboys? It quite literally can't go harder than this. Oh yeah. The premise is simple. You play as Gojiro Kiryu, a samurai in search of his brother Rando, to kill him of course, and where else than the Wild Wild West. Along the way you meet a ridiculous cast of characters, including Ralph, voiced by one Steve Blum.
After all, this is Goldberg's town.
Well, I suggest you keep quiet unless you want a belly full of lead.
Turns out you need to deal with the tyrannical Goldberg, unrelated, and you'll go town to town to other various fantasy Wild West locations, killing everyone that gets in your way. And since this came out in 2005, you know we got all sorts of goofy grindhouse violence. The combat in this game is real simple. You've got a single attack button, the ability to grab dudes, and a special trigger to go into your master mode. You can also grab someone and run around with them firing knives or guns. Yeah, that's pretty good. Oh, and don't forget the dodge button. Yeah, sure, this looks silly. What if I told you Samurai Western is incredibly difficult?
You wasn't much after all.
Samurai Western is a game that I feel has a ton of potential that you need to dive into to appreciate. Developed by Acquire, the people behind Way of the Samurai, it's similarly one of those games that wants you to play the crap out of it in order to truly get it. Samurai Western has a ridiculous skill ceiling, requires grinding to unlock new weapons and accessories, and learning each level to your maximum effort. You can't just run from beginning to end. At a certain point, you're gonna hit a wall, and it'll either be frustrating enough to turn off the game or alluring to where you gotta keep going. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Level grinding. Samurai Western did not review well at all. I actually feel like this has a decent amount in common with God Hand, which we've talked about. That's not a game you can breeze through. It's a bit of a gamer's game, and similarly, you're gonna need to get good whether you like it or not. If that level of challenge is appealing to you though, well, then Samurai Western is kind of a banger. Just a banger that needed like 10 more lines of dialogue.
Stand still! Don't get them!
You'll level up Kiryu, individual weapons, and accessories. Those accessories can be put on your body anywhere, by the way. This feels like one of those One-Chanbara games, but with a samurai Wild West aesthetic, and I'm all here for it. Each of the weapons has a different fighting style, but it's not Devil May Cry. It's also not trying to be. It's trying to be samurai western, and if that's your bag, I think Acquire knocked it out of the park. Sometimes you just need that 7 out of 10 freak pick that you might have rented back in the 2000s, and you just don't see games like this anymore. They were perfect for your blockbusters and Hollywood videos, and this one even has multiplayer where your second player is in control of Ralph. There's a lot to love here, and while it's definitively not for everyone, if samurai western is your cup of tea, do yourself a favor and give it a shot. If none of the other classic reviews got me, Game Trailers does.
This can help in giving Gojiro a bit more personality.
So there you have it, a bunch of cool PS2 games. Not much to deconstruct here. It's in the title. The PlayStation 2 was awesome. And if you're in the mood to check out some older gems, check them out. Are there any others I should check out for a future video? Let me know down below. If you liked today's video, make sure to check out the sponsor, War Thunder. Use my links to play free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or mobile. And those who haven't played in the last 6 months or newbies will get my massive premium pack, only available for a limited time. You can also support us directly at the Patreon, where you can become a backer, or buy a t-shirt over at the Pixel Empire. Give us a like, a comment. It all goes a really long way to what's gonna amount to more of this. I gotta do the PS1 too, huh? Anyways, I'ma head out. I've been Austin, and I'll catch you guys next time when we celebrate a full 20 years of a video game console. Thank you all so much for watching. Special Patreon shout out to Benna Oswald, Blackfoot Ferret, Blake Thomas, Cheeks, Clark Fox, Chris Shelton, DX Buster, Dylan Snyder, Fragile Traveler, Hey Quiggles, Jay Roos, Jacoby Fitzpatrick, Kevin Zanowski, Nocturnal Nix, Pierre, Platinum Rose, Pacha Bear, Rare Find It, Ryan Siri, and Vox. Thank you all so much for your generous support. Hey, it was like I said last week, cool PS2 games. It's just something I've been wanting to do for a while. Hope y'all liked it. As for what's coming up next, well, if my hint wasn't enough, you should be feeling really old by the time I release this, unless you're like not in your 30s, in which case you're like, shut up, old man. But yeah, it'll be coming soon. For now, I've got some miniatures I need to paint. Okay, love you, bye.